Mr. Speaker, I yield as much time as he may consume to the gentleman from Arkansas, Mr. Hill.
Gentleman from Arkansas is recognized.
Well, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much, and I thank Chair Kim. What a marvelous signal it sends to the world and to the United States to have young Kim as our chair in the Foreign Affairs Committee of East Asia, our subcommittee, a young woman born in South Korea, a proud American citizen, a proud American mom, and now member of Congress and spectacular chair. So thank you, Chair Kim, for yielding the time. And to my other friend from California, Mr. Sherman, I think you've made some outstanding arguments on behalf of our bill, and thank you for being an original co-sponsor on H.R. 55 for the Taiwan Conflict Deterrence Act. I modeled this bill on the Holding Iranian Leaders Accountable Act, which the House passed this spring and included in our national security package, and President Biden signed it into law this spring. The idea is very straightforward. If we want to see the world's communist and autocratic dictatorships change course, we must expose their wealth, corruption, and financial privilege of their elites to the citizens suffering daily under their rule. This approach certainly applies to China's Communist Party as well. The CCP leaders sit atop an authoritarian state littered with cronyism, kickbacks, graft, bribery, and a colossal misuse of public funds. If China chooses to attack the free people of Taiwan, H.R. 55-4 requires the Treasury Secretary to publish the illicit assets of Beijing's senior-most leaders, including the names of financial institutions and maintaining accounts. As Mr. Sherman noted, our 1979 recognition of the government in Peking, now Beijing, rests on the foundation that the future of Taiwan would be determined by peaceful means, and that any other method, including boycotts or embargoes, is considered a threat to peace and security in the Western Pacific. At a time when the Chinese youth face a 17% unemployment rate, and Xi has failed to deliver a social safety net, and families are battered by sinking real estate debt, let these corrupt officials explain to ordinary Chinese citizens how they acquired their riches on a government salary, even as they call on their public to support war across the Taiwan Strait. But this bill goes beyond just naming and shaming. It will also cut off access to the United States financial system for those CCP officials and their immediate family. This point's worth highlighting in order to convey the costs that Beijing will bear if they impose an embargo, boycott, or launch military action. Blocking Chinese leaders' use of the dollar will certainly be mirrored by restrictions from other major economies as well. And for Chinese officials whose families profit from their ill-gotten gains, they too will find the world becoming a much smaller place. In 2012, the Washington Post reported that most of China's Politburo Standing Committee have children or grandchildren studying here in the United States, including CCP Chairman Xi Jinping. Such privileges will be put in jeopardy if China decides to act against Taiwan. H.R. 55-4 guarantees it. Let me underline one other detail of this legislation which is central to how it works. The bill triggers reporting on China's leadership, but it also contains exemptions for those who cooperate with the United States. If Chairman Xi engages in hostilities against Taiwan, the asset report required by this bill might leave out a number of his colleagues. But is this because the Treasury Secretary simply targeted other individuals, or because the unnamed officials turned state's evidence, earning themselves an exemption from the U.S. sanctions? No one in the CCP will ever know for sure. By the same token, everyone covered by this bill has an incentive to turn against the Politburo if they determine to take aggressive action in violation of their commitments against Taiwan. Before it's too late for them and they see their finances laid bare. The legislation treats the CCP like the kleptocratic, centrally planned communist state that it is. The same way we frequently have defeated organized crime, sowing distrust and paranoia. We must do the same in Beijing if China moves against Taiwan. Mr. Speaker, as Mr. Sherman noted, no one wishes to see conflict involving Taiwan. But we want to deter China from their worst instincts of potentially taking hostile actions. We must signal those consequences clearly and early. Earlier this summer, Taiwan recorded 66 Chinese military planes operating around the island, setting a single-day record. 56 of those aircraft entered Taiwan's air defense identification zone. Last month, Taiwan's defense ministry reported to lawmakers in Taipei how Beijing is developing new weapons and tactics to pressure the island. It's up to Congress and the executive branch to communicate that war across the Taiwan Strait would destroy the global economy, impoverish the Chinese people, and now, thanks to H.R. 55-4, impose significant personal costs for the Chinese elite and high CCP members. But the time to do this is before the outbreak of any threats or hostilities. Again, I want to thank Chairwoman Kim. I want to thank my colleagues on the Financial Services Committee for endorsing this legislation during its markup, and I urge all our colleagues to support this bill with a yes vote, and I yield back to the chair.